grateful that everyone has taken the time to come and discuss this issue, an issue close to my heart and one that I've been working on for several years. And this is part of a wider movement, I think, to open up the debate about how we feed pigs and whether there's more that can be done from the point of view of recovering waste. We probably all know that FERA, after being commissioned by DEFRA, published a report on the pros and cons of feeding catering waste to pigs. And that kind of study is the beginning of what I hope will be a much bigger and more extensive piece of research that will be done into the environmental, economic, animal health and nutritional pros and cons of reintroducing more waste products into feed. It was a debate that was completely absent in 2009 when I published my book. Anyone interested in finding more detailed argumentation and referencing of the Pig Ideas campaigns should, could anyway look at my book, particularly from page 237, where I discuss the environmental and historical context of it. But I was going to note the weather. It's raining again, and it's been raining quite a lot, and whether or not that has anything to do with climate change, who knows. But it is completely concurrent with all the predictions that scientists have been giving us about what will happen in the event that the climate warms. Whether or not it is a product of climate change, it has been affecting agriculture in this country. It probably will adversely affect. Anyone got any winter wheat that's been completely drowned by floods?
Little bits.
Little bit. So that again is concurrent with what we've been told, which is climate change, extreme weather, and an adverse effect on crop yields. So if the global food system's response to needing more food is to grow more food in ways that contribute to climate change, we will be undermining the very objective of the exercise. We have to look at how we grow food on a global scale and say, if there are ways in which we can improve it that reduce environmental impact and reduce the contribution to climate change, that is something that is so vitally important to sustaining the long-term health of our food supply, we have to consider it. I believe the pig idea is an example of that. We have a global strain on global food supplies, which has resulted in food price spikes. We have price volatility, an issue that any pig farmer has to deal with on a daily and monthly basis. We have forecasts that feed prices will continue to go up. We're chopping down the Amazon to grow more and more feed, and these trends are continuing. What we've done, unfortunately, on a global scale is to turn the logic of pig domestication on its head by growing crops and using land specifically to feed to pigs, with an overall net loss to the global food supply. By using more waste, we can reverse that trend, save money, reduce environmental impact, and increase food supplies. Within the law, we all know there's a lot more that can be done, and I think that is one area that probably everyone around the room agrees on. It's our common ground, if you like, and I think there's a lot that we can all work together on. Where we disagree is how far we should go. Revising the current animal byproducts legislation to allow more food waste, including animal byproducts, to go to pigs, would, in my view, be the single biggest policy shift to make the environmental impacts of food production globally be reduced, and also is a massive economic opportunity, because therein lies the protein that would replace the Amazonian soy that we depend on the import of to Europe every year. Now, we all know about the risks of feeding animal byproducts to pigs: foot and mouth, classical swine fever, and African swine fever. It's one that I am very aware of and feel very personally as well. My uncle was a shepherd in the Cumbrian Pennines, and his two sons emigrated to New Zealand after the foot and mouth outbreak. I have another cousin who was a sheep farmer and an uncle who was a dairy farmer. None of these industries were free from impact of the foot and mouth outbreak. The question is, do I believe that we are capable of introducing a system sufficiently robust to ensure that food waste can and is always properly processed, namely cooked and sterilised before being fed to pigs? I believe that we have that system for human food supply chain, and I believe that we could introduce a system that is well regulated and well enforced for the central collection and processing of food waste for pigs. In the past, this has had a bad name because it's been poorly regulated. We had a suboptimal law that required swill to be cooked for 2 hours at a minimum of 92 degrees centigrade, which is more than was actually required, and that encouraged, I think, probably some people to avoid using the fuel required to accomplish that level of cooking, and it obviously diminished the nutritional content of the feed as well. The other thing to bear in mind with the risks is not feeding animal byproducts to pigs doesn't make the animal byproducts disappear. They're still being processed. They're being landfilled, and we all know about flying sandwiches and the possibility of birds landing on landfill sites and then dropping ham sandwiches on agricultural land. And in fact, I think one of the classical swine fever outbreaks in the UK was attributed to that cause. So it's there, it's going to anaerobic digestion, and the digestate from AD is spread on land, so you still have to make sure the food waste that goes into AD plants is sterilised, because animals will have access to it. Processing that stuff through a well-regulated and well-enforced system of recycling for animal feed would, I think, be a way of dealing with it that would adequately deal with the risks associated with feeding those products to pigs. The benefits far outweigh, in my view, the very legitimate concerns that there are on the part of animal disease and people who would have their businesses at risk in the event of an animal disease outbreak. I believe that there are examples of this kind of process already operating in countries like Japan, where they have centralised food waste recycling plants. Pig farmers save an awful lot of money. They collect food waste from the centralised food waste recycling plants. They save at least 50% of their costs, and they produce an eco-cork, which they sell to the same kinds of businesses that provide them with the food waste. So where can we go from here? I think one of the things that would be really useful to come out of today is perhaps a better understanding about the different layers and different sources of food waste that we're talking about, so that we can examine where we might respectively draw the line. We know that within the law, anything that can be shown to have never come in contact with animal byproducts can already be fed to livestock. The MPA take the view that even within the law, the stuff that they don't want to see going to pigs, like supermarket waste collected from back of store. I would definitely push the line back and say, look, supermarkets handle food for us, they can handle food for pigs as long as they put in place the right systems. So there we could look at the line. And then if we change the law, manufacturers who currently handle animal byproducts, their stuff by default cannot go to pigs unless they can again demonstrate that the animal byproduct and non-ABP containing products are kept completely separate. Would food waste containing animal byproducts from a manufacturing plant answer some of the issues that have been raised about traceability? Would that be a source that people would contemplate as potentially safe? Going one step on, you've got processed animal protein from slaughterhouses, again, quite traceable. And if you can adequately ensure that it's been treated, is that suitable for feed? Lizzie has raised the issue of the pricing around processed animal protein, and that may indeed be a barrier, but that isn't, in my view, a reason for making it illegal. Let the market decide that situation. And then there's obviously catering waste. I think we all agree that going around people's individual domestic dustbins and collecting food waste is not something we should be contemplating, and the pig idea has never suggested that it should be. But large-scale catering, unserved dishes of food, yeah, I think that again is a suitable source for collecting food waste in a traceable manner and processing it centrally. It would be really interesting to know where anyone else draws that line.